Hey YouTube, today's topic is talking a little bit about the asexuality spectrum and the different parts of identity that kind of feed into whether or not you identify as ace or somewhere on the ace spectrum. I had this idea for a video a while ago, but I was just recently reminded of it when Ash Hardell did an ace spectrum collab video that I will link below. This is going to focus a little more on the sort of intersection between ace as an identity and desire, levels of desire, and a little bit about my personal experience. So one thing that I think can be challenging when you're trying to figure out if you fit onto the ace spectrum, where you fit onto the ace spectrum, whether it's permanent, is that even though like our identities have different elements that we can kind of put into boxes like, you know, romantic attraction, sexual attraction, desire level. I guess you could even do romantic desire, sexual desire. There's a lot of different things that go in there. And a lot of times we talk about those for convenience or just to make it more clear, we talk about those as each like individual categories. And one of the things that I've heard a lot, it's kind of almost a truism I think in the ace community, is that sexual attraction is not the same thing as sexual desire, and that you don't have to have like a low libido to be asexual, and conversely, if you have a low libido, you're not necessarily asexual. And I think that's true, but in the like sort of messy real world of human reality, these things do kind of mesh together, or can mesh together. For me, I think thinking about sexual attraction has been really difficult to divorce entirely from libido, because one, I think sexual attraction is actually really hard to define. Like, I've had this conversation with friends, you know, like, what does sexual attraction even mean? Is it that you see somebody and like you immediately want to jump them? Is it that you see somebody and you think about sex, or you're drawn to sex, or like what is it exactly? And I think the range of what people feel in that area is probably a lot broader than you might think, and so it makes it really difficult to define if you start trying to think about, do I experience sexual attraction? How much do I experience? When do I experience it? I think about 2-3 years ago, I decided that the term demisexual fit me pretty well, based on the experience of a kind of attraction that I was like, I think this is sexual attraction. And if that's true, then I'm only really experienced this for like 1 or 2 people. Definitely not for everyone that I'm partnered with. Definitely not for everyone whom I'm sexually active with. And so I was like, okay, I think this is sexual attraction. I think I'm demisexual for that reason. The people that I was sexually attracted to were only people with whom I was in an intimate relationship with and had known for a long time, although not everyone in that bucket I would be attracted to. But then, and I think that's right, I think I am demisexual as part of my identity, but then I also, like, I definitely relate to, I can't remember the new name for it. It used to be called autochorus sexuality, and then I think someone came up with a shorter name for this, but basically the idea is that you don't get off on thinking of yourself in sexual situations. It's always other people. Like, you fantasize exclusively about other people, and that is also true for me. So I think I'm like, those two things are part of my identity. But then also, having experienced shifting libido over time, that has definitely been part of it. Like, I don't know, when I had a relatively high libido as a teenager and in my early 20s, and I'm not sure even if I had known more about asexuality, like, I'm not sure I would have identified on that spectrum personally when I had a higher level of libido. I also just related to sex differently then, and in my late 20s or so, like, I definitely, because of some medication and some other reasons, like my libido dropped a lot, but I still identified with the demisexual attraction, with sometimes being sexually attracted to people, even if my likelihood of having desire or actually wanting to engage in sex was very low. And then, even more recently, I don't know that my libido has gone down again some, but also like my interest in engaging in sex is pretty much nil. My attraction to people also went from 1 or 2 to 0. And I think there's probably a relationship between the two. And a lot of times I've been describing it as like, oh, I'm having a lot more ace feels. Like I'm thinking more about asexuality. But I don't know that I would permanently be on the far end of that spectrum, and I don't know if it makes sense to identify as ace. I mean, I think I could, and I could change my identity, because anybody can do that over time if they want to. But it's hard to know how permanent this is. And it's also, like, I think a lot of people who are demisexual go through periods of being attracted to nobody because attraction is so rare. Or gray probably similarly, if you identify as gray ace. You might go through long periods where you're not attracted to anyone. So yeah, I mean, I think those things are pretty tightly intertwined with each other for me. I can't say that, like, if my desire went up, I think it would be unlikely that the first thing that would happen is I'd suddenly start being attracted to people. I don't imagine that would happen. I think those are separate to some extent, but I think the parallel experience of one going down and the other going down at the same time probably isn't a coincidence. So I'm curious for other people who maybe have thought about asexuality but aren't sure where they fit, or don't know if they can identify, or are kind of unclear, or maybe do have shifting levels of libido compared to attraction. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments about your experience and what are some of the questions you've had and some of the conclusions you've come to. And if you do enjoy content like this, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what other queer topics you might like me to cover. All right, have a great day.